Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for holding this important meeting. There have been a lot of exchanges today, and our workforce consistently prioritizes skills over degrees. No other country can compete with us. And apprenticeships play a huge role in maintaining that economic edge. Oregon has created the right environment for maintaining an incredible apprenticeship system, one which other states, frankly, should copy. If you go to the Oregon Apprenticeship and Training Division's website, you'll find easily accessible programs equipping Oregonians to become bricklayers, educators, firefighters, aircraft mechanics, iron workers, and so many more jobs without our state couldn't function, quite frankly. Dr. DeBroy, in your written testimony, you discussed the need to have updated and accessible databases so that apprenticeship programs are meeting the labor's market needs. Can you tell me what are the barriers preventing these kinds of databases?
Thank you so much for the question, and it's such an important one. I want to grab my notes on this. There's the need that we have right now as a community in workforce to actually better understand the workers, their trajectories, their occupations, their skills, their employment opportunities. I think one of the most critical things we note in the federal data workforce, the federal data infrastructure right now, is that there's a lag in when we get access to that data and how accurate it is in state and regional contexts. And I think investing in the opportunity to actually better understand the American workforce is going to better serve all actors within the workforce ecosystem.
So you're saying the data input is what's the barrier to, the lag of information is what is the barrier? That's the only barrier for the databases?
It is a significant barrier today.
Okay. And what are the targeted solutions we on the committee should focus on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think investments in data infrastructure are actually really critical. And I think through WIOA, we have an opportunity to also start to think about better investments in serving business services as well, to actually better serve small and medium-sized businesses as well as large enterprise and regions.
Thank you. Now for the programs themselves, in terms of how we prepare workers. In Oregon, workers overwhelmingly prefer registered apprenticeships because those programs have clear and uniform standards centered around what is best for the worker. Can you speak to why workers have such a strong preference for registered apprenticeship programs over industry-recognized programs?
Good question. I don't know as much about the variation in apprenticeships. What I will say from the data is that we've seen a proliferation of registered apprenticeships into new occupations in the US labor market. So you named a number of occupations. We've also seen registered apprenticeships in healthcare, in technology, and advanced manufacturing that didn't exist 10 years ago. That's a really promising trend for the American workforce. I think beyond that, though, what we do see is a lot of innovation in employers actually deploying informal apprenticeship models to an additional 200 roles in the US labor market. That's also really important because that's a kind of first step in figuring out how can we build those pathways for workers to actually enter a lot of newer occupations that they haven't historically had access to.
Great, thank you. I would add that it's important to remember that nobody, I hope, wants to get rid of industry-recognized programs, but I think we have to call it like it is. If you want the federal government to financially support your apprenticeship program, you've got to meet the standards which make registered apprenticeships so appealing to the workers. So really one last question that I have for you, Dr. DeBroy. Aside from the things you've already mentioned, what are the best ways Congress can make apprenticeships more successful for workers? And please feel free to take really what's left of 56 seconds to answer the question.
I do think it starts with a better data infrastructure for the American workforce. And then beyond that, I do think that there's apprenticeships still account for a really small portion of how workers get access to jobs. We need to scale that in a significant way, and there are ways that we can actually incentivize employers to move towards skills-based hiring practices, and apprenticeships are just one method, right? There are other methods like helping them see that internships are a pathway into work, that contract to hire opportunities are also another way to bring workers who haven't historically had access to a number of opportunities into their jobs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. DeBroy. Mr. Chair, I yield back.